Well, this is for all you observant followers. You'll know that when I was doing the oar test, the length test, I was squatted down on the floor and I was measuring, up to my shoulder from the tops of my thighs. And so what I proceeded to do then was to go and measure from the top of the boat to the top of the seat. Well, my thighs are up here, and that got me to thinking that I had that other little blue seat in there, and I needed to put in my Empress here, which sets a little higher, and it's going to have a little plate set on it, which I've got underneath now. And so it's set way too high, so I've got to drop this whole center seat thing 2 inches. So I will go ahead and mark that up, and we'll come back on that after I get that done. I mean, I'll change the plans. I had the measurements for 12 inches, but they'll probably go back down to 10 inches to lower that seat down. I also, let me tip these guys down. I have all these little bulwarks cut out, and you can see with some of the colors I use little nylon ties. Normally I don't use a nylon tie on those kinds of things because on the hull, because they're just not strong enough. I broke a couple of them in the process, and so these will be lined up on the station line cut marks, and I brought out my I'm lined up with the mark up here, and I just put a little line down here because this side doesn't have the lines, the other side does. And then I just put them in where they're going to go and draw a perimeter so that I know where to come back and paint underneath with epoxy, and I'll coat that area before I do anything else. And the other thing is too, I save these pieces. These are from where the cut out on the side panels. I don't know if this is the bow end or the stern end, probably by the curvature of the bow end of these parts that you cut off here from the top of this panel. Save them because you have a wide enough thing in here. You need 4 inches wide by about 10.5 inches long, and then you cut them at a diagonal, and you have your 2 pieces for your bulwarks. So save these pieces. Don't always save your wood. And I got some other scraps in here too. I've got my block set up for my motor mount protector for the outside, and then I've got some little blocks I cut that'll be on the inside, and I need to epoxy them together and then shape them down. And then I may put another one next to it, or I may just throw this away and start over with something a little longer. For another little Scotty mount right in here. So it'll be off to the side of the handles and out of the way of the motor. I'll think about that one. That one just occurred to me. So let me go ahead and do the seat. I was just sitting in a chair to measure how high from, between my legs from the bottom of the top of the seat up to a comfortable rowing. So anywhere between 14 to 16 inches. So that'll put me about that height right there. Here's 16, here's 14, somewhere around in there. You're going to be rowing, nice and steady like that. And that'll put us back into the 7-foot range. And I also steepened the angle on the bow edge of the seat pyramid. So now that I've got, I know what I'm going to do there, I can go ahead and slit this apart and transfer it over to the pieces of plywood I've got, and then make up that wooden, the real wooden one, and get that wired up and ready to mark out too. I want to, once I get the plywood seat done, I'll put the real seat back on top of it, and we'll set it on top of our pipe again in order to check the balance. I don't want the seat back so far that it limits how much room you have to stand around. I want the seat someplace where the boat is somewhat flat, but this isn't it's something to go racing on. This is, going to go, I doubt if you'll row more than half a mile at the most, maybe a mile, and it shouldn't be any problem to row this a mile in one direction and then come back to the launch again. But I wanted to make the seat, or install the seat out of the way so you have plenty of room back in here to move around where the widest spot of the boat is. I don't want the the seat set clear back here to where it's in the beam area, and you lose a lot of the width for stability. And I didn't want it so far forward that it's, you know, you're rowing from the bow. So once I get that done, we'll set it on the pipe again and see what happens. So these are the things that I go through and think about in my sleep and while I eat and on my 5-mile walk every day. Is like, what can I do this? So, and I've got another kind of hatch coming. Chuck's going to send me a demo on a DPS hatch that they sell down there that are supposedly a little easier to open up than those doggone Sea Dogs. So we'll come back. Now, as you can see, this is the piece we saved. I told you to save this. This is the bottom panel, the remainder of the bottom panel. I was able to get the 12-inch square here. I guess I could make it smaller to make it fit. And then I've got one of the end panels over here, a full piece, and then another one here that I can make out of 2 pieces. And that, I think I'm going to go ahead and do that anyway. I'll put a butt block on the inside, which will also act as, I'll make a wider one, act as the backing for the hatch. So this will be the front part of the hatch. And the side panels are so close to these remnants, I think I might run this over and make a scarf in here with a small butt block on the inside. I've got some leftover 4mm that I can put in a strip to put on the inside. There's no use in wasting plywood. I want to see how much I can get out of this without having to go to another sheet. I got some scrap that I could use, but I don't want to do that. I want to be able to show you what you can do with what you buy. So, because it looks like it's going to be, I used one for the bottom, and I had one for the sides, and I guess I used another piece for the bow and transom. So you're going to need at least 3 sheets. So you may not have to do all the scarfing. I'm just cheaping out here. So let me get these cut out. Start over again. One of the things I just did was, you know, I took some measurements off of this grid in order to give you an idea of drawing out the initial one, so you can see the angle. Well, you can't see it, but and then the measurement on the back. So now I've got a couple things still to cut out, but I wanted to check it against my mock-up and to see how close my actual measurement laying out on a flat piece would work, and it will work. So the numbers listed in the plans will be pretty close, but you still want to check it out when you wire it up, and you may have to do some more trimming along the bottom edge here. Just wanted to let you know that. Well, I've got everything in the boat. There was a couple little pieces on the transom that are not in place yet. I've got, I don't know if you can see that up here now, I've got my Scotty cut in, my little platform built. I've got all the side bulwarks are in. I've got my seat plate that I got. Sportco and Fife for the, you can get these extra bases separate from the chair, so if you can have one chair on several boats, you can move it around, or say you got 3 of the little bases and 2 seats in one boat. So depending on how you want to set up. And I've got everything in here, and in fact I moved the seat a little bit farther this way. I got into the boat to set on it to determine the oar locks, and I've also got a Gel Magic on some extra. I wanted some stiffeners on here on the rails. We'll show these when I get done finishing them, but there we're nicely balanced. It teeters one way or the other, and we're about balance point is about 4 inches forward of the beam, and the aft edge of the seat platform here is setting right on the beam line. And let me zoom in here. You see I've got the seat all cut out and the bulwarks. Now I've got to get out a tube. We'll zoom in on that. And then I got my little Scotty sticking through the nose. I don't know, some of you may have thought that was, you know, I just killed my boat, but I don't know, I like it better than trying to put one of those brackets on it for the thing to stick out, but I don't know, I guess it's your preference. I can always patch over. Well, I got my tube of Gel Magic here. Start getting a little bit of mixing action. You can see it coming up the tube there. About from here on up it starts going clear. What we're going to do now is we're going to put a bead, 100% bead along in here, and then we'll fill it later. Without that little gap that we put the bevel in there, there's one that now she's coming out better. Without that gap, it's easier to pull, I guess. But it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to put fillets on top of it. And once we get the fillets in, then we'll give the insides of these things 2 coats of straight epoxy. Seal them off. This is the little Scotty perch. Take some of the pressure off for a second. I can smooth some of these out with an old used tip. Make it a little more even. You can see what I'm doing there now. But I needed a really small ball to do this. This is that first one. It'll be on the inside, so we don't care if it's a little bit ugly. And you'll see that I used nylon ties. I had these, a whole bunch of them, for $1. So, a little easier to work with than the wires on something this small. This stuff works so fast with this caulking tube. And before we get carried away here, we'll also check our edges and make certain that everything is squared up and none of these little edges here have jumped out of sync. thicker tip. Okay, you can see we got our backing plate for the hatch in here already too, so. Like I said, now that we've got everything, we want to be sure that these edges up here are even. And now we'll leave them untouched. Let me go over and work on the take our little tool. It's gap filling, but I want this thing to really conform to the shape of the inside rails. I got everything I was going to do today, and I've got one coat of epoxy scraped on underneath where the bulwark's going to go. This area will never see the light of day again, so you want to give it, you know, at least two good coats. Skim coats to seal off the wood, and then the inside of the bulwark will also get a couple coats, and then we'll 100% gel magic around the perimeter when we get ready to put that in, and everything will be filleted on the outside too. So I don't think I'll have to glass tape over the edge. I may glass tape the seam going this way. But I'll probably do that out of the boat. So we'll do that when we come to it, and I probably have enough stuff for this video. So we'll come back with some more assembly. I also got some pieces cut out for the motor mounts, and I may have some other pieces that I may stick on the inside for putting one of the regular little brackets for a Scotty on. For whoever gets this may want that added. So I have it all done at one time. So I'll see you later.